We all know that mods can radically change the way a game looks and the way it plays, but sometimes it's the smaller mods, the mods that change little things that actually can make the biggest difference to how much fun we have when playing the game. A good example of that is the Better Inputs mod for Oblivion Remastered. In this game, the default key to open a container is E. However, to loot an item within the container, you have to navigate down using the mouse and click on it. If you press the E key, as you would in many other games, you'll actually close the container. Better Inputs just changes that so the E key actually loots an item that's highlighted, and you will need to use the escape key to close the container. It's a small quality of life change that actually makes quite a lot of difference, at least it does for me. Probably the biggest problem that I have with the Oblivion Remaster is the way the difficulty system works. On the default Adept difficulty, opponents are ridiculously easy to defeat. You can usually just steamroll them without using any skill whatsoever. But if you crank the difficulty up just one step to Expert, things just go utterly ridiculous in the other direction. Fights seem to take forever and you end up running around in circles, slowly damaging the enemy and trying to stay alive whilst your stamina and magicka are regenerating. The reason for this is pretty simple. When you jump from Adept to Expert, enemies start to do 3.5 times more damage to you, and you do 3.5 times less damage to them. That is obviously a massive and, in my opinion, almost insane hike in the difficulty for each fight. That's where a mod called Difficulty Slider Fixed comes in. This mod reduces the jump in difficulty between Adept and Expert and Master. There are, at the time of making this video, 4 versions of the mod, and you can pick the one that suits you best and make it so that when you choose Expert, it is an increase in difficulty. It does make the fight more challenging, but not to the point where you just want to quit. Basically, you can think of this as just adding a few steps between Adept and Expert. Honestly, this was a bit of an essential change for me, so I'm putting this on my must-have mod list. The next mod is another simple one. This time it's called Better Infoboxes. And by Infoboxes, it's talking about those giant pop-ups that appear when you hover over a container or a door. You know the ones? Big black backplate behind it, a frame around it, covers half the screen, those things. And it just removes the frame and makes the background a lot more transparent. There's even a smaller version that just reduces the size a little, but I think it makes a big difference. I feel like the screen is a lot less cluttered and I can see far more of the world. Another mod by the same mod author is called Better Reticle, and again it's a very simple mod that changes the cursor that you get, the reticle, when you aim using a staff or a bow. So rather than that little cross you have, you just have a dot. Now of course this means you can't tell when you've got your bow fully drawn by looking at the cross as it gets closer, but let's face it, it's not hard to see that by the draw of the bow itself. Again, a nice little mod that just reduces the clutter on screen so there's less to distract you at important moments like when you're shooting someone. Another mod that I've started to use is called Unleveled item rewards. For those of you that don't know, many of the items that you get during quests will be leveled. And what this means is, depending on the level you are when you complete the quest, it will decide what level item to give you. This means if you get an item early on, it will be a lot weaker than if you get the same item doing the same quest much later on in your game. An example of this is this Phylactery of Litheness that I acquired doing a quest. It gives me 7 points to speed in its current form, but if I'd held off completing the last stage of the quest for a few levels, I would have got a better version that actually increased my speed by 10 points. The mod Unleveled Item Rewards bypasses this problem by simply awarding you the best version of the item whenever you do the quest. Of course, this does run the risk of you acquiring slightly overpowered items if you can get that item early enough, so there are some other options to deal with this issue. For example, there is the auto upgrade leveled items mod, and what this does is it gives you the correct version for your level, but whenever you level it will check to see what you've got and it will give you a better version if you are now the level required for that version. Another option to deal with this problem is to use the balanced Unleveled Rewards mod, and this mod does things a little different in that whilst it does fix all items at a certain point, it doesn't fix them all at the maximum levels. What it does is it fixes them at levels that seem appropriate for their appearance, how easy they are to obtain, and with maybe some other considerations like balance against other items that are found in generic loot. At least that's how it's described on the mod page. That way, none of the items should feel overpowered for when you get them unless you overcame incredible odds to do so, but you don't have to worry about getting a worse version of a reward than you might have had you just waited a couple of levels. All three of these mods are great, and you should pick the one you feel meets your needs the most. And before I wrap this video up, I just want to point out that the Oblivion Remastered script extender has been released. For those of you that do not know what the script extenders are for games like this, it's a mod that generally doesn't do anything by itself, but it expands what other mod makers can do with the game. It's kind of an essential thing for most people who mod their games on PC, and it is out and it's already being used by some mods. For example, there is a mod that allows you to keep your achievements working whilst using mods. It's called Baka Achievement Enabler, and this requires the script extender. I'll probably make a video just on the script extender itself one day, but for now, just know this is a good sign. Modding is heading in a good direction for Oblivion Remaster, and we should expect to see better and better mods as time goes by. And let's face it, I'm probably going to be trying a lot of them out, and of course I am going to report back to you and tell you what I found. So, if you want to join me for future videos like this, or any of the other videos that I make, you are more than welcome to do so. But until then, remember as always, have fun.